or earbuds, and then the earbuds fail intermittently.
Okay, right, yeah. They run on fumes.
But they do help cut down the echo and stuff.
Can you hear me okay now?
Yeah.
Cool. Hey, Eric. Hey, Sarah.
Hey, Scott. Welcome aboard.
Thank you.
How was your vacation?
It was good. We went to Southern Cal for a long weekend. That was restful. And then got a bunch of stuff done around home. The house the last week. Memorial Day is a big weekend in Boulder. It was the Boulder, which I ran yesterday. Yeah. That was fun.
How's the weather?
Hello.
What's that?
How's the weather?
It was 50-ish, which is good running weather. It was kind of a cool spring day, and it ended up raining later in the afternoon. But for the race, it worked out great.
Excellent.
Yeah.
I've run that number of years in the past. This is the first year that I have not.
It's 15 in a row for me.
Wow.
Yeah.
I have not made it to 15.
Is that the Boulder?
Yeah. Yeah, it's on Memorial Day. It was yesterday.
Okay, yeah, I know of it. I've never been to Boulder, but I heard from my family that it's a big thing by now.
Yeah, it's like 50,000 entrants, so huge race. I think it's like the third biggest in the world.
Wow. And you came second, third?
I got fourth in my age group. Probably like 500.
That's awesome.
That's awesome. Congratulations.
Thanks.
All right. Well, it is 1 minute after. People are still dribbling in, but it looks like we've got certainly quorum at least. And there's only a couple of items on the agenda, but I will kick off with the first one, which is, welcome, Scott.
Hey, thank you, Mark.
First time on the call. I'm sure you'll introduce yourself in the team call. I don't know when, tomorrow or the next day, so we can save the proper introductions, but I want to at least welcome you here. And Jason, looks like you've got a couple items, but you're saying read only. Do you really want them read only, or do you want to speak to them?
Well, I think the second one for sure is read only, but since there's no other agenda items, I'll talk about the first one. So the delivery team is working with engineering in the big Road to CD effort. They're making really good progress there, and they're actually getting close to achieving some of the things where they're going to be doing a weekly push. So that means the way that code is making it to production is going to work a little bit differently. And they're talking in that MR, which is an MR to update the documentation describing the proposed new process, what that's going to look like. A lot of the details in there are about how engineering is going to work internally, but especially towards the end, there's a lot of info about how that's going to then flow into the release process. So it's important that product managers check that out and understand it. I did already open up some conversation threads in there based on different questions that I personally had, but I'd recommend everybody else jump in there too, and if you see anything that doesn't make sense or looks like it could be an issue, we should call that out now rather than after the new process is in place. There was another issue I opened a while back related to how feature flags are interacting with our release process, which is sort of similar in that feature flags can be turned on or off at the last minute. And we've probably all seen those kind of like, is it in or out of the release post? It's that kind of issue that CD is potentially also going to contribute to. So do check that out. And then the other item is just I recorded a workshop with my folks that are new on the team. And we opened up an issue, edited it live, and talked about what are the important things with labels, description, grooming the content, and just making sure that an issue is well written. And so that may be useful for anybody who's new or anybody just who wants a different perspective. I know I would love to see how others who have been here for a long time would groom an issue as well. I'm sure I'd learn a lot from that.
If I could just plus one that I haven't actually watched the video yet, but I would strongly recommend that everybody does watch this, not just new, but we have changed processes a lot over the years. And so it is really, really worthwhile reviewing that and seeing what sort of best practices we have. And then jumping in the conversation and making it even better, of course. But at least, and I'll just give a plug for Jason here. He's actually been the best in the entire org, frankly, for grooming issues and category visions and stage visions and things like that. So I would really take his recommendation seriously.
Yeah, and plus one, thank you for creating that. And then the other thing that I would say, and I think you highlighted this in the video, but I'll just say it again for the whole crew. Grooming and making sure that our documentation and our written communication is crisp is incredibly important for those new team members, more important than it would be at a normal organization because of the way we work, because we work asynchronously. Being able to have anybody from the community or the company, a team member, look at an issue and know exactly what is going on and have the most current kind of updated information in the description, not having to go through the comments to decipher what's going on, is really important, and it's the thing that enables us to iterate as quickly as we do. So just make sure you're putting forth the effort to focus on making sure your written issues are crisp.
Yeah, Jason.
Oh, sorry. If we don't have anything else about the grooming, I had a question about the CD stuff. Eric, do you want to keep going on grooming?
Yeah, just one thought. I put it down there so you can just read it. But Jason, thanks for that. I've had, I think, every single person on my team, at least I've recommended that they watch it. I just had a thought, which is to do some thought leadership stuff around product management. I think it'd be cool if we could do almost like a working session, reasonable talk at a conference that maybe any of us could give, either at local meetups or even bigger conferences with respect to just how are we thinking about remote product management? How does this work? Kind of akin to Kenny's points here. It only works if communication is really crisp. Mark had mentioned even at least a blog post for sure, but I think we could even do a little bit bigger than a blog post. So just a thought.
Yeah, I'll give it some thought. I'll try and make a little bit of time in my schedule. But I agree, it's a good idea. Kenny, you had a question about CD?
Yeah, it's kind of just the meta point for those who are uninitiated. I'm going to try to summarize what I think is happening when we talk about the road to CD. It's been a long time coming, as far as I understand. I think it predates me. But my understanding is that we typically release on a monthly cadence and do our kind of, I guess I would call it canary or pre-release our release candidates into GitLab.com. But when we talk about moving to CD, we're going to be talking about delivering new code, I guess it's on a weekly basis or some regular basis, to GitLab.com, and then bundling any new code still in our monthly releases at some certain point in time. So that kind of blurs our monthly release boundaries a little bit, because stuff will get deployed more quickly to .com, but I'm wondering if maybe Jason, you can give us your thoughts on how it changes how we should think about our monthly release iteration and cadence.
Well, there's a couple important elements, but one I think really crisp way to think about it is you may have features that are delivered to production a couple days after the 22nd, or a few days after the 22nd. So what we don't have right now is a way to communicate with our customers and users of GitLab.com what these changes mean and what the impact is to them, especially if they're a change that adds a feature that's very visible or changes the way an existing feature works. Normally we would take advantage of the blog post to communicate that change. And now we have to do this more asynchronously. Josh had some really interesting ideas that he shared in the feature flag issue that I also linked to there about potentially having like a weekly mini blog post and then structuring the data in a way that you could roll up the weekly update, I guess, into a monthly report without having to create essentially two documents. But it's little things like that that are going to potentially cause confusion with customers around features that are appearing on GitLab.com. And then the other thing is kind of the other side of the coin, which is if GitLab.com is a little bit more blurry, it may become more confusing for people who are using a self-managed version to understand what exactly is in their release. I think that side of the coin will be a little bit easier, but you can imagine some confusion there if a feature came out just a few days after the 11.11 release, for example, and then somebody goes and downloads the 11.11 release, and it doesn't have that feature. So it's that sort of stuff.
And at the very least, documentation should be always clear about what release something was in. And I guess we need, if nothing else, a nomenclature then for, it's not 11.11 anymore. It's it's not a patch release, it's 11.12 pre or something along those lines, so that it's clearer to folks.
Another thing that we've done historically is we'll write the documentation well after. We're not supposed to be doing this, but this does happen, that the documentation will be written before the 22nd, but after the feature is finished. That won't really work anymore, because then you'll have undocumented features being released out into the wild.
Oh wait, sorry. Something Mark said, it just seemed like it breaks a bunch of things. We don't have milestones for anything other than the minor releases. So are we saying we should have like a 12.1.1 for each week, or?
This problem is the one that's being discussed in that issue that we should.
Okay, gotcha. Cool. Thanks. The other thing I would just say, for historical context, this has been a long time coming. It's obviously a great improvement for us to increase our iteration cycle and be able to get stuff out quicker. I think the product organization is generally super supportive of it, but it will necessitate some change in our process. So.
Yeah, in case this isn't obvious, like whatever problems we have, let's not complain about them, because this is absolutely unequivocally a positive, absolutely necessary thing for us. So let's get behind it as much as we possibly can.
And also, if GitLab is making any of this stuff difficult, it's going to be making things difficult for our customers. So we should be thinking about how to improve our own product so that these things aren't problems.
Yeah, I had a question on that. Are they dog fooding everything, Jason?
Yes, for the most part. This all is being done within GitLab. We haven't migrated over feature flags due to some feature gaps still, and just the focus on changing the process has had us not adopt releases, has had us not adopt feature flags yet, just because there's so much attention on this one thing through the delivery team. But those things are coming. Where we're not dog fooding, it's intentional in order to get this done, and we will do those sooner than later.
I mean, the page in the handbook is even called dogfooding CI/CD, although that's not entirely the purpose. The purpose is to get us to continuous delivery, but clearly we're dogfooding our product to get us there.
So that's it for me. I think over to you, Fabian.
All right, thank you. I think mine is mildly related, actually, and to a certain extent, maybe like CD is also the solution to this problem. So this is a quick one, and just came up today in a conversation with Grong from customer success, where something that I was just interested in learning from the group is, so we release things, right, and we document what we release, and we also basically say, okay, for this release we're going to ideally ship those things. But sometimes things can slip. I think that's quite normal. My question is, when that actually happens, do we actually report on that or update issues to reflect the reasons for slippage? Because sometimes when, like I think customers actually are looking forward to a release containing something, and then it doesn't happen, there are probably very good reasons for that. But do we have a way of actually communicating that? Because I think that in its own right, is probably just fine. And also, if we release more frequently and more iteratively, maybe people wouldn't worry about it anyways, because they would basically say, well, it's not happening now, maybe it's happening next week. So that's just the question.
Yeah, it's interesting. I'll share a blog post with you that was written in March. That's about how we do the automated monthly retrospectives here using GitLab. It is done using like the triage bot that sends you, these issues need to be reviewed. There's one that will send out a retrospective. I think that this is like available for anyone to use. We aren't tracking how what the cause of the slippage was and generating statistics on that. We do add that missed :1111 label that helps track things, but I think looking at this blog post will be interesting for you to kind of see how it all works. And it's also reminded me that I should go take another look at this as well and see how we can integrate this better in the product for release retrospectives. We have our release feature improving a bit, and this would be a nice enhancement. I have something generally on the roadmap for retrospectives, but this could be a good opportunity to revisit that.
Cool, thank you so much.
I'll also add, and this is sort of the minimal thing there, but if you change a milestone on an issue, you should be adding a comment to explain why. It doesn't have to be a hugely detailed comment, but One of the anti-patterns we've had in the past is looking at a bunch of issues and seeing things change and having no idea why it changed, and like, was it almost done but just didn't quite miss the window, or did we decide not to ship it at all, or who knows what. Make sure that that's not a who knows what kind of situation. All right, well, I think this is the shortest meeting we have had in like 2 years. I'm just kind of shocked that there's nothing else on here.
Mark, I'm gonna take us back up. But I've been thinking a lot about the continuous delivery on GitLab.com. And is there a way we're gonna, and I added comment B under there. Are we using labels as a way to keep track of stuff that we've pushed and are behind a feature flag, so that way there's an easy way to create a list that says, this is the delta between GitLab.com and our current release?
That's also sort of what they're describing, or what they're discussing in that issue, to try and figure out a way to mark what's in what state within the milestone. Labels don't work. I don't know. Labels work, but it's sort of clumsy for that because it can be forgotten. And but that's exactly what's being discussed in there.
All right, I'll take a look at the issue. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Interestingly, we have a feature in the product called feature flags, and we should be able to solve this problem somewhat well, although I don't think we're using our own feature flags yet. But I remember when the first MVC of feature flags, we had talked about tying them to issues or epics and being able to visualize on the issue or the epic what percent rollout, or what group it's attached to, or what phase of the beta cycle, or whatever it is that you're referring to. But being able to see, going beyond just merge request closes issue to merge request implements issue behind a feature flag, and therefore the issue state is not just binary anymore. It's, yeah, this issue is rolled out to these production environments, but not these ones, or whatever it is. I don't think we've solved that yet, but I don't know, Jason, is that on your roadmap?
That is on my roadmap, very much so.
Cool.
And so is bringing the internal team to using our own feature flags feature. We're using Flipper right now, which is like a Ruby lib. But with the focus on getting this new engineering process in place, they have sort of pushed back reasonably, I think, on dogfooding feature flags or the new releases feature. But that stuff is coming, and it's high priority for as soon as we've got kind of this new process in place.
Right, and I'd say obviously, following our own dogfooding rules, right? Like, if they need a feature to make this work, count it as 10x or whatever. But there's value in us prioritizing our own improvements so that we use our own feature flag system. I know it's really early; it's a minimal product at the moment, but or maybe we even call it viable. I'm not sure, but in production, there's a lot more demands. But
it is definitely still for sure on our roadmap that we're going to be taking advantage of the single application stuff, and we are still doing the tying of a feature flag to an issue, so that there's a correspondence there, and then once you've done that, that issue has a milestone, and that milestone can then be reported on in an interesting way. So yeah, very much in the vision.
Cool. Eric, you're adding something?
Yeah, just dusting off the cobwebs coming off the 3-day weekend here. But just so everyone knows, the category maturity Harvey Ball graph did not make its way onto the website, but that doesn't mean we shouldn't have our category maturity dates properly vetted and groomed. And so please make sure that those are updated. And the other thing, I forget what the other thing was. There was one more thing.
While you think about that, just to be clear, so the Harvey Balls did make it on the home page, but there is a new button on the home page called GitLab Feature Maturity, which goes to a new page with the Harvey Balls on it that we had talked about. And it basically replaces the handbook page for maturity. It's now a marketing page. So we are publicizing, the marketing of our category maturity stuff. So still important. We just didn't put it on the home page. Did you think of your second one, Eric?
Yeah, the second one was kickoff. The first falls on a weekend, so we basically have this week to kind of directionally have the items and the features that you want to plan for 12.1, and please populate the kickoff document by the end of the week.
And then we'd gotten into this pattern of when the 7th is on a Friday, we do it on the Monday. We're still planning on doing that, so it'll be Monday the 10th. We'll do kickoff.
I moved the event, assuming that that was
Okay.
what we were doing. So the event should be on Monday the 10th at noon Eastern.
Cool. Thanks, Brendan.
Do we have a standard practice when the 22nd falls on a weekend?
22nd is 22nd. It ships even if it's a weekend. But that doesn't mean we have, but everything else, the release kickoff and the retros and things like that don't. But yeah, it does kind of suck when we ship on Sundays and Saturdays.
Cool, thanks.
That date is sacrosanct. All right, does anybody have anything else? Christy, anything from UX? All righty. John, anything else from PMM?
No, I don't think so.
Did anybody have a particularly amazing Memorial Day experience? No.
Not really. We
Holiday,
swam a lot. We swam a lot and ate a bunch of barbecue and indulged in some cold beverages.
I mentioned this at the beginning of the call, but Boulder has an annual 10K called the Boulder, which my son and I ran.
Oh, your son did it too.
Yeah, he did.
How old is your son?
He's 12. It's a fun weekend. There's a lot going on around town.
All right, well, looks like that's it. Thanks, everyone.
All right. Have a good one,
Entire
y'all.
week.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks.